People say you can use AI to analyze data, so let's talk about that. Well, first of all, can we do a data analysis with predictive AI? Predictive AI is already an advanced form of data analysis, but it's not adaptable to data outside its training. So if you train a model to say yes or no about whether images contain a fracture in a structural beam, pretty important, there's no way to use that model to do data analysis on images about anything else, or spreadsheet numbers, or audio, or video. So it is data analysis, but not very adaptable. How about data analysis with generative AI? Let's remember that generative AI deliberately injects randomness to become more creative in whatever way creative means. That might be okay if we're having it come up with ideas for graphs, but not when we want to actually crunch numbers and be faithful to the numbers. Even if we tell the generative AI to not use randomness, it's still just trying to say the most likely thing next based on its training. It's not actually trying to be careful about doing arithmetic. Just to demonstrate that LLMs on their own are not good for data analysis, I randomly generated some numbers in Excel, and then I tried this prompt in Perplexity: compute the mean of these numbers, respond only with the numeric value. People have said that telling an AI to respond only with the numeric value kind of helps highlight the trouble it has when it can't kind of seem to think through things. But even if it tries to seem to think through things, not super reliable. So here's a bunch of numbers, all between 0 and 100. And it answered with 53.47. This is the same numbers, just in text. Uh, but the actual mean computed by Excel is 50.52. And so, yeah, maybe it was close, but it was definitely not exact. I tried the same prompt, same numbers on some other AI platforms, and some actually gave the right answer, but there's no guarantee that they would get it right again if I tried again, or if I tried with higher precision numbers, like give just more decimal digits, that might confuse it. So how do we get to reliability if we want to use AI to do data analysis? Well, one of the most famous living active mathematicians, Terence Tao, said, "We're used to computer tools being fussy and uncreative, but also reliable and predictable." So things like search engines, programming languages. But he said, now we have large language models that can understand in natural language requests and generate creative text, but without reliability, predictability, or accuracy. Those three things are pretty important for data analysis. So he suggests that we use LLMs to be creative about how to do the data analysis, but then have them generate computer code that we can check. And that computer code is this fussy and uncreative, but more reliable and predictable thing. So that gets us toward the best of both worlds. I agree with that idea. We're talking programming languages like Python, Java, C++, R, MATLAB, Fortran, or statistical languages like SAS, SPSS, or Stata, maybe. So that's the aim we're going to be, or that's the tactic we're going to be taking here. We're mostly going to be talking about spreadsheet type data, which is also called tabular data, not so much about photos, audio, video, or text. Those are usually better done with predictive AI rather than generative AI, although we'll talk more about text a little bit later. Um, Before we jump into that stuff, let's just point out that humans, like a scientist or engineer, might have a tendency to try different ways of doing the statistics until they get one that proves the point they want to make, or that they can publish something. We would hope that AI wouldn't have that kind of bias, but I can't guarantee it. It's something to watch out for. It's definitely true that humans who want to get a particular result could tell AI to try this analysis, try that analysis, and it would make them faster at doing all these different types of analyses until they get what they wanted to prove. So it's a big picture thing to keep in mind. Also, before we jump into even designing a study, we should be asking big questions like, who could be affected by this thing? Who are the groups involved in our project? Who isn't involved yet, but maybe should be involved because it could affect them? Why are we doing this project, not something else? Who gets to choose what the best allocation of our scientific or engineering effort is? So there's an organization that has a list. The organization is called We All Count. Let's go find that. And they have a bunch of choices that are kind of explicitly or implicitly made. Did we make these choices intentionally? Did we make them transparently? Did we make them in alignment with our goals? They actually have 99 of these. So these are good things to be thinking about when you're designing a study or deciding what study to even do. So you can go read that later. Of course, there's a link um, in the logbook. Okay. Also remember that we should be very careful about data privacy. Don't upload any data that you aren't authorized to upload, even to that specific tool. Like you might be authorized to upload it to this tool, but not that tool. It might be okay to upload artificial data to an AI, even if you aren't allowed to upload the real data. Have it help analyze the artificial data, then copy its analysis, like its Python code, onto your local machine and use that on the real data. But again, you should check with your supervisor or your IT department or something. To simplify the vast array of kinds of studies and data analysis that is out there, we're going to think of it as only two types. Some studies where you design your own data collection, could be a chemistry or biology or engineering materials, like strength of a kind of steel or something, or some kind of engineering prototype, or maybe this is taking data out in a wetland or a desert or out in a geological rock formation thing. Um, and then another kind of study would be one where you analyze data that someone else collected. So we'll spend the next few videos exploring those.